Howdy gamer. I was really thinking about like coming into season 10, the runes for Bard are they're the same, but it's kind of strange in like the way other people are running them. I've always been the only player I've ever seen run Arcane Comet, and Bard's one of my most played champions. Most people don't really have like the numbers in Bard in terms of like games played. Like I have probably 2,000 games of Bard played, and like whenever I look at any of the stat websites and whatnot, it's always just the most random bad runes on Bard. But there are three major keystones that you're going to run on Bard, and I'm going to talk about all of them in this video. So let's start off with the most common, with Electrocute. Electrocute's pretty basic. I would say it's the second easiest to use for Bard, as it's just most natural in terms of dealing your damage properly. And for players who are used to playing like a carry role or playing like other poke champions, like let's say Zyra or something, it'd be easier to play Bard in this sense. So what Electrocute offers is whenever you have 3 instances of damage, you deal extra burst damage, and then it's on about a 20-second cooldown at all stages of the game. With Bard, you only need one auto attack plus your meeps, and then either another auto attack or your Q to proc the Electrocute. It's pretty easy for Bard to proc, as you could just 2 auto proc it or a simple auto Q procs it. And then the damage added is pretty nice, and then since it's only on a 20-second cooldown, even in a laning phase, like you're only going to be trading about every 20 seconds anyways, so the cooldown isn't really that significant. But in a team fight, the cooldown is very significant, as you can only proc it onto one person. And then if the enemy has a tank support or something, and if you spend anything on them, you're very likely to like waste the Electrocute proc on, let's say, like a Leona with Aftershock or something that just engaged. So it's pretty easily wasted if not used correctly. And then yeah, so Electrocute mostly for burst. Second rune is going to go with Cheap Shot. Whenever you damage an enemy with impaired movement, then you're going to deal extra true damage to them, and this is only on a 4-second cooldown. So Meep Auto will proc this, and then another auto attack will deal the extra damage, or just another Q. And then with this only being on a 4-second cooldown, like you can proc this about 3 times in an all-in, and that extra true damage does build up, especially in the bot lane or against an ADC that only has like, let's say, around 700, 800 health. Taste of Blood's an okay option, but if you're running Electrocute, you're either going to be either like landing a Q to trade or not trading at all. So having the extra health from Taste of Blood, not required really. Ghost Poro, similar to like Enchantress supports, where you're going to be using your warding trinket early in the enemy brush closest to their tower, and then whenever a ward dies, it places a Ghost Poro that gives you a little extra vision, and then once an enemy steps into that bush, then the Ghost Poro dies. But usually, if the enemy's pushed or if the wave's neutral, they might not be standing in that bush. And then if they are, you get the information, and then if they're not, you get the information. It's a pretty good rune in the bot lane, as now there's 3 bushes in the bot lane. And then whenever you place a Ghost Poro, you get AP as well. So this eventually gives you 30 AP, and the Ghost Poros will spawn off your Sightstone and off your Trinket Ward. So it works early game. Mid game, the vision it offers isn't so useful unless like it's around an objective. So it's nice, and then it just gives you more AP. And then 4th rune in the domination tree is going to be Relentless Hunter. This gives you more out of combat movement speed, helps you pick up chimes, get back to lane faster, position in lane to land skill shots, and then move around the map faster. And then for secondary runes, you have okay options if you're running Electrocute to go, say, into the sorcery tree. But what I would recommend most people do is run Inspiration, and then run Futures Market, and then Cosmic Insight. What this will allow you to do is, Futures Market lets you get Boots of Mobility a lot faster. And then once you have those, you can just basically just perpetually exist in the river. You can attack mid lane, you can attack the enemy jungler with your jungler. You can just move around bot lane a lot faster, pick up chimes faster. And then later into the game, this will help you get your second item. So let's say you complete Athenes, it helps you get Locket faster, it helps you get Redemption faster. And the money you lose really doesn't matter in the support role. So having the extra Mobies too, like, really just is a huge nuisance in solo queue. And then even like let's say if you're running Electrocute, you might as well like build Twin Shadows first item too, and then having the extra CDR for your abilities, for your Flash, Ignite, and the item CDR for Twin Shadows, pretty nice. Or any active item that you could have, Redemption, Locket, etc. And then the adaptive runes are basically going to be the same across all pages. AP, Armor, Magic Resist. It's like covers all bases in the bot lane. If the enemy picks something like, let's say, Pike Senna, sure, just run double armor. But otherwise, just run double or run armor and magic resist. Bard's base armor is really high, oddly enough, so you don't have to run. You don't have to run like this. You can just like double down, and then whenever any champion damages you with any value other than true damage, then you're going to be resisting it to a good degree. And then having your heals on top of that makes it really hard to take Bard down. Like in isolation, and then if that happens, you're the support anyway, so it pays off. So with this page, like it's pretty basic, and the only things you really have to keep track of is like your Electrocute proc. The other things just happen naturally, like the wards will place themselves, the cheap shot will just give you extra damage without any sort of thought, and then Futures Market is okay. Futures Market's the only other thing you have to pay attention to, as you can go into debt like if you're not used to using it, but basically just in the early game, go into debt to get boots of mobility faster and then move around the map a lot. So this page is okay, pretty easy to use. I don't particularly prefer it, as I prefer the sorcery tree, but let's go into the secondary runes for Bard, or the secondary rune page. The second most common page for Bard is Guardian. I don't really know how this caught on. My suspicion is like it's the easiest to use. It's a good page, but it shouldn't be your default in my opinion. But I am going to recommend it as the default for most players because it is the easiest page for Bard to use. It makes it so that running into the enemy and like eating abilities is less detrimental, and your protection to your allies is much higher. So the Keystone we're going to be going with is Guardian. Whenever your ally is damaged and you're near them, you get a shield, they get a shield, and then it blocks so much damage. The shield is based off your max health and then your ability power. So both stats that Bard has, and then the cooldown is pretty significant. It starts at 70 and then goes to 40. So you're basically sitting around 55-second cooldown, let's say mid game. So it's very significant, as you're only going to proc it once in a team fight. But the shield offered and then the movement speed offered is pretty good, so long that it's used on like a key target. So if you're playing into melee champions like Leona or something, this page is way more dominant as well. And then if you're into enchanters, it negates their poke more, etc. So this rune basically just provides more safety, and then by doing so, it makes it so that you and your AD can hit the enemy. And then if they retaliate damage, then it's just going to be blocked to a certain amount. Secondary rune is going to be Font of Life. When you slow an enemy, so your meat autos and then your Q, or even your ult, you're going to mark them, and then whenever your allies hit them, then they're going to heal for a pretty small amount. But this can be procced multiple times throughout a team fight, or in a 2v2 bot lane. And then come mid game, you really start getting better value out of this rune, as all your allies can be proccing it versus just your ADC in a 2v2 in the pot lane. So it's a pretty good rune. Third rune, you could run any of these. Bone Plating if you're into melees, Second Wind if you're into ranged, and then let's say if you're in a matchup, like let's say Morgana, where it's just like all in or not, you could run Conditioning. And then the bonus stats offered is okay. It's not like do or die, but if you have these bonus stats mid game, it's more useful than Second Wind for sure, as you just stop really taking damage come mid game. So if you're in like a hard counter matchup, or a matchup in which you wouldn't really interact with your lane, then if you can get away with the conditioning, it's a pretty good rune. The default I would recommend is Second Wind, as any matchup you're just going to be getting value out of it. And then third is going to be Overgrowth. Overgrowth gives you more health for the minions that are near you that die, and then eventually it gives you a percentage of max HP. So for Bard, this basically gives you like a ruby crystal for free. That's what the value of it is for most supports. So it makes you like even tankier. Revitalize is an okay rune, but Bard's heal isn't like it's not like other enchanter supports heals. Most of most enchanter supports heals like already heal like the more that the allies damage. A Bard heal is pretty minuscule, so you really don't have to run this rune. That and you don't have any other shield other than Guardian, so you don't have to run this rune. And like if you're into an enchanter matchup, maybe run Revitalize, but I wouldn't recommend it as the bonus health from Overgrowth is just generally more useful. Making yourself tankier versus having a little bit more of a heal on a heal that's already so low isn't so useful. It's a fine rune though, but I value I just value the Overgrowth more. If you're playing into an all-in support, mainly like Leona, who has a lot of CC, you could run a page like this. Presence of Mind would give you mana for every takedown, basically. So, and then Legend Tenacity gives you tenacity throughout the game. So let's say if you're playing into Leona and you would run Relic Shield, which is the more defensive option, you would stack up the Legend Tenacity a bit faster, and then you could even go Merc Treads against them. So then if they actually all in against you and they spend the abilities, the CC abilities on you, it's even less value for them. So that's interesting. But the thing is with Legend Tenacity, it has to stack up, so it's not even like it's wildly useful in the laning phase. And then against, let's say, a champion like Nautilus, you do have the Tenacity against his hook, but then he has a slow and then he has a knockup, so you lose a ton of value. And then a champion like Alistar, this would be entirely useless, just like basically just a knockup, and the Tenacity is not going to save you. So the runes I would recommend for this page would be, you could either run Futures Market, similar to the Electrocute page, or you could run Biscuit Delivery. It's like, do you want Mobies faster, or do you want more mana? The Biscuit Delivery also helps in all-ins, which would be the reason you would run this page in the first place. Like, you're against melee supports, and then your Guardian negates the all-in, like Bone Plating would negate an all-in, having the extra health from this, having the extra health and then the extra mana. So yeah. And then the adaptive stats would be the same. Armor and magic resist, because armor would help you block damage from the enemy ADC, and then magic resist usually helps you block damage from engaged supports like Leona, Alistar, etc. So this is like by far the easiest page for Bard to use, as even if you eat abilities, it hurts less, but the trade-off is that you actually lose out on so much damage, like so much damage for free. And that's why like I personally like don't like this page so much. If I'm playing into melee, sure, I'll run it, right? But the rune page that I prefer on Bard is Arcane Comet, and I've been running this page for a while now. Like from season 9 and then coming into season 10, this page functions about the same. The only difference being that the support items are weaker early, but that's not really like that bad for Bard, as you're still gonna, this page is still gonna be serving the same purpose. So starting off with the Keystone Arcane Comet, whenever you meat auto someone, you're gonna be proccing this. And so if you land your Q or your meat auto, you're gonna be proccing Arcane Comet. And then once you get enough meeps, your slow is gonna build up, and then the slow is gonna guarantee the Arcane Comet proc. And then every time you damage the enemy champion, then you're gonna be building up, or you're going to be reducing the cooldown for the next Arcane Comet. That and Arcane Comet is AoE. So even if you're hitting a tank, you can still be damaging the enemy carries with Arcane Comet. It's a super like underutilized rune with Bard. And then this, in combination with Scorch, makes it so that whenever you meep auto Q, or just blatant Q into meep auto, then the poke damage onto the enemy laner is going to be way higher. And then by having the damage be higher, then it's going to be more significant. You don't have to kill your laner to like hard win lane as Bard. Just a simple like level 7 like Q meep auto could blatantly like win you the lane if it's onto the ADC, and then they don't have like heals or shields or anything. So that's super interesting. And then Mana Flow Banded into Transcendence just gives you like 2 scaling tools. You don't even need Mana Flow either. Like if you're against Karthus, or if you're just against like Veigar bot lane, like any magic damage source, feel free to just switch this to Null Orb. as you don't need the mana from this. It's just like an accessory. With a new Nimbus Cloak, not so useful on Bard, but if you're again like into an engaged support, or I don't even know how you would use this offensively, to be honest. Like you would land a Bard ult, Q Ignite, and then have extra movement speed. Not so useful. So the default would be Mana Flow Ban, but again, like feel free to take No Lord. And then secondary runes, Taste of Blood, and then Relentless Hunter. So extra movement speed to pick up chimes and then move around the map. And then 3 laning tools in Taste of Blood, Arcane Comet, and Scorch. This lets you like trade 1v2, and then it also lets you take negative trades. Because whenever you're trading with Bard, like ideally, you trade like a Meatbot OQ, and then you portal away. Or you're in a position in which you can just walk away. And then ideally you have Shrine set up, so you just move to that, you recover like 120 health for free, and then you go back at it again. Even if you're taking like 2 auto attacks, let's say from AD support, and then 2 abilities, let's say from AD support, you could still win the trade and then out sustain them through Bard's W. So I really, really like Arcane Comet, and then come mid game, it's even stronger. As the cooldown's lower, it can hit multiple enemies, and it can be procced multiple times in a team fight, versus Electrocute that can only be procced once. The benefit of Electrocute is that it does have higher damage around mid game, but then it can only be procced onto one target. So that's Bard runes. This is the page I prefer. Again, the easiest page is this, if you're looking to like get into Bard. But yeah, if you have any questions about Bard runes, feel free to leave them in the comments. I do answer like every single question in the comments. You can also message me on any social media that I have, and then if you're interested in support gameplay, then you can check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/SawyerNelson. If you're looking for like a quick Bard build, can go off this. If you're running the Electrocute page, you could run Twin Shadows first. If you're running Guardian, then you could go Shirelia's Athene first, or even Athene Shirelia's. And then if you're running Arcane Comet, you could build Moby's Redemption Locket. You could build Shirelia's Athene's Locket. You can really just put like a lot of these items like in different orders, and it would still work. The default I would go with, though, if you're not sure, would be Shirelia's Athene's Locket Redemption. Shirelia is a pretty good item for Bard, man. I really like the changes that they did for it. So yeah, hope this helped. I don't give a shit even if the good Bard players start using Arcane Comet. Like if they're not like on the technology or like even understand the runes, that's fine. It's whatever. Don't tell anyone about Arcane Comet. Keep running Guardian. See you next time. Bye bye. See ya. Check out the other rune videos if you're interested. Alrighty. Bye bye. See ya.